Olivia stood by the window of her luxury apartment on the Upper East Side, her hand resting on her growing belly as she gazed out at Central Park. The soft June sunlight filled the entire room with warmth. She was 6 months pregnant now. The morning sickness had finally begun to subside, and she was getting used to this new life growing within her. "How are you feeling this morning?" Hearing Michael's voice behind her, Olivia turned and smiled. Her husband looked especially dashing in his navy Armani suit. They had been married for 4 years. Michael had built a successful career in investment banking and had chosen this 3-bedroom penthouse along Central Park just as Olivia had hoped. The rent was $15,000 a month, not an outrageous amount for a prime Manhattan location. "Much better now," Olivia replied. "I think the baby is finally getting used to my body." This pregnancy was the result of their last IVF attempt after 3 years of fertility treatments. Throughout the entire process, Michael had never once complained and had remained steadfastly supportive of Olivia. Michael stood beside Olivia, and together they looked down at Central Park. "I'm glad to hear that. Should we go to the museum this weekend? I heard the Metropolitan has a new special exhibition." They always spent their weekends together. It had been their rule since they got married. Their quiet dates at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, in particular, had become a cherished ritual. Olivia nodded. She had just been promoted to department head at her tech company last week, but she didn't want to let her work-life balance suffer. Michael felt the same way. Despite being called a rising star at his investment bank, he made an effort to return home at a reasonable hour whenever possible. They had decided on Mount Sinai for the delivery. Both Michael's parents and Olivia's parents were pleased with their choice. The nursery preparations had already begun, with soft mint green wallpaper selected. On weekends, Michael would help assemble the furniture himself. "Michael," Olivia placed her hand on her husband's arm. "I'm truly happy." Michael smiled tenderly. "So am I. I've arranged a special dinner for tonight." Olivia felt her heart flutter at his words. Her husband understood her tastes perfectly. She was certain he had made reservations at a wonderful restaurant. She had no way of knowing then that this night would change her life forever. At 7 in the evening, as Manhattan's bustle began to settle, Olivia, dressed in a black maternity dress, held onto her husband's arm as they entered Le Bernardine. The serene atmosphere of the upscale French restaurant enveloped them gently. "Mr. and Mrs. Green, thank you for joining us this evening." The hostess greeted them with polite formality. Michael was apparently a regular. As they were led to a private dining room near the wine cellar, Olivia watched her husband's profile. His navy Armani suit blended softly into the evening lighting. As soon as they entered the private room, Amy, the sommelier, appeared. The young woman, who appeared to be in her early 20s, had her blonde hair neatly styled and carried herself with professional poise. "Allow me to explain tonight's wine list." Amy's voice was crystal clear. "Mr. Green, the usual?" she said, giving Michael a subtle glance. "Ah, yes. But today," Michael paused for a moment. "My wife will have non-alcoholic options. She's pregnant." "Of course. I'll prepare a special non-alcoholic pairing." Amy flashed a perfect smile. "And we've already informed the chef about Mrs. Green's shellfish allergy. Champagne was brought to the table. Michael raised his crystal glass, and Olivia responded with her non-alcoholic champagne. The gentle sound of clinking glasses echoed pleasantly in the private room. "To your promotion and our growing family," Michael smiled softly. As they listened to the explanation of the special course menu, Olivia savored her happiness. From appetizers to main courses, every dish was as beautiful as a work of art. Their conversation naturally flowed from work topics to discussions about their coming baby. "Have you decided on a name?" Michael asked. "Not yet. But what do you think about Lily?" "I think your mother would like it." They were enjoying such pleasant conversation when, just as the main course arrived, Olivia sensed something was wrong. She felt a slight itch in her throat. "Michael," she managed to say. "Something's." Suddenly, intense pain struck. A sensation of her throat constricting. Breathing became difficult. "Someone. Call an ambulance. My wife needs help." Michael's voice echoed through the private room. The surroundings became chaotic. The sound of restaurant staff rushing about. Amy's distressed voice. All the sounds gradually grew distant. Olivia's vision slowly darkened. The next time she opened her eyes, she was staring at an unfamiliar white ceiling. A hospital room at Mount Sinai. The smell of disinfectant stung her nose. The first thing she noticed was the strange feeling in her stomach. When she touched it, the bump that should have been there. "It's okay," she heard Michael's voice. Oddly calm. "It was an allergic reaction. Seems there was shellfish contamination." Olivia couldn't speak. But she understood everything. She knew that the life that had been growing inside her was no longer there. At that moment, the door to the hospital room opened, and 2 police officers entered. And in that instant, Olivia saw it clearly. The way Michael's expression changed in a split second. The moment when the perfect husband's mask slipped, just for an instant. "Mr. Green, we'd like to ask you some questions." The police officer's voice resonated heavily in the quiet hospital room. A distinct tension hung in the emergency room at Mount Sinai Hospital. Dr. Jennifer Chin, the emergency physician, was reviewing the test results again. In her 20-year career, she had never seen such abnormal values. "This is clearly not a normal allergic reaction." Dr. Chin spoke quietly to the night shift head nurse. Olivia Green's blood tests showed values approximately 10 times higher than a normal shellfish allergy reaction. What troubled her even more was Michael Green's behavior. While his wife was unconscious, he had been absorbed in phone calls in the hospital corridor. He seemed distracted during the detailed medical explanations, rushing instead to contact the insurance company. And most unnaturally, his subdued reaction when informed about the fetal death. "I have a duty," Dr. Chin picked up the hospital landline. "I must report this to the police." Meanwhile, at the Manhattan Police Department's Major Cases Unit, Detective John Murphy was studying surveillance footage from La Bernardine. The footage showed the area near the wine cellar. At 7:30 p.m., junior sommelier Amy Roberts was preparing wine for the private room with unusual movements. "We found something interesting." The digital investigator pointed at his computer screen. It displayed Amy's social media account. Scattered throughout posts from 2 years ago were casual photos with Michael Green. One from an investment banking industry party. However, it was dated just 1 week before the couple's wedding anniversary. The insurance details have arrived. Murphy's partner, Detective David Rodriguez, handed over the documents. In case of accidental death, the payout is $5 million. And the beneficiary was changed just a week ago. Olivia quietly answered the police officer's questions. Her memories were fragmentary, but certain things were clear. The change in her husband's behavior. Amy's subtle shifts in expression. And above all, that moment of unease. "Ma'am, can you explain your husband's behavior over the past month?" At Detective Murphy's gentle inquiry, Olivia thought deeply. Come to think of it, there had been changes in Michael's behavior. The sudden late-night work the day before the incident. Increasingly frequent solo dining outings. And unusually large cash withdrawals. All the pieces were starting to connect now. At the investigation headquarters, new evidence was emerging one after another. Interviews with Bernardine employees revealed Amy's unusual behavior. She had been frequently shopping at luxury boutiques recently. Furthermore, records showed appointments to view luxury Manhattan apartments. The payments had been transferred from Michael Green's personal account. The DNA test results are in. The digital investigator handed over a printout. A used drug container found in the wine cellar had Amy's fingerprints on it. And the composition analysis perfectly explained the abnormal values in Olivia's blood tests. The hospital's security cameras had captured even more shocking footage. While an unconscious Olivia was being rushed to emergency care, Michael was meeting someone at the hospital's back entrance. That person was clearly Amy. On Dr. Chen's desk lay new test results. Amy Roberts' pregnancy test was positive. The timing calculations definitively pointed to her relationship with Michael. A heavy atmosphere hung in the hallways of Mount Sinai Hospital. At the nurses' station, nurses were talking in hushed voices. 2 police officers stood in front of Olivia's room. And on the 10th floor maternity ward, the pain of a lost life was quietly but surely leading to the truth. Detective Murphy was confirming the final piece of evidence. Security camera footage from Michael's company captured the night before the incident. He was arguing intensely with someone. That person was clearly Amy. And she repeatedly made gestures of touching her stomach. All the evidence is in place. Detective Rodriguez announced quietly. Michael Green, who had played the role of the perfect husband. Amy Roberts, who had hidden her ambitions behind a modest demeanor. And between them, an innocent life lost. The truth was more cruel than imagined. In the interrogation room at Manhattan Police Headquarters, Amy Roberts covered her face with both hands and began speaking in a trembling voice. It all started 2 summers ago. A premium wine tasting event. Michael Green attended as a regular guest. Amy, the new sommelier he met there, was captivated by his sophisticated manner and deep knowledge. It was the quiet beginning of a secret love affair. At first it was just casual conversation. But gradually, Amy's voice faltered. The wine cellar of the upscale restaurant became their private meeting place, where no one could see them. Michael told her about the emptiness in his marriage to Olivia. The pressure of fertility treatments. His wife's anxiety about her success as a career woman. And Amy, who filled the void in his heart. I found out I was pregnant 3 months ago. Amy's voice trembled. Just when she was dreaming of a future with Michael. But his reaction was unexpected. Offering settlement money. Demanding an abortion. And then, the news of Olivia's pregnancy. He was cornered. The clock in the interrogation room struck midnight. Detective Murphy continued listening quietly to Amy's confession. He made the plan. But I'm just as guilty. In Bernardine's wine cellar, Amy began a special preparation after finishing work late at night. Concentrated shellfish extract. 10 times the normal concentration. They had even calculated the possibility of death. Michael had prepared everything perfectly. Changing the insurance beneficiary. Opening overseas accounts. And plans for their new life after the incident. Everything had been meticulously planned. Amy's pregnancy was an unexpected event that threw off that plan. In the next room, the digital investigator was analyzing vast amounts of data. Exchanges on encrypted messaging apps. Draft real estate contracts. Records of overseas transfers. And surveillance camera footage that would become decisive evidence. We found more evidence on Amy's computer. The digital investigator pointed at the screen. Search history for allergy lethal dose. Maternity clinic appointment records. And an Excel file detailing future plans with Michael. At Mount Sinai Hospital, Olivia sat alone by the window. The doctor's explanation still swirled in her mind. Shellfish extract at 10 times the normal concentration. It clearly showed intent to kill. Mrs. Green. Dr. Chen entered the room and spoke quietly. We have detailed test results. The substance remaining in your body is not commercially available. It was specially prepared poison. In the hallway, police officers were bringing in new evidence. Surveillance footage seized from Bernardine. Amy preparing the wine. Cryptic glances with Michael. And their secret meeting immediately after the incident. We have the suspect's confession. Detective Murphy quietly opened an envelope in front of Olivia. This is the composition of the poison used in the crime. Olivia's hands trembled as she read the documents. They detailed how fragile 4 years of marital trust had been. The private room at Bernardine. A week after the incident, the restaurant was silent. The police forensics team was thoroughly examining the wine cellar. A small drug container discovered in a corner of the floor. Amy's fingerprints. Records of transfers from Michael. All the evidence connected perfectly. An arrest warrant has been issued for Michael Green. Detective Rodriguez announced. We plan to execute it at his company office. Amy's confession continued. Plans for a future with Michael. The insurance money they were supposed to receive after Olivia's death. And their plans for a new life together. However, those dreams were shattered to pieces with the police intervention. The Manhattan skyline glittered quietly. The cityscape visible from the hospital room window reflected the same daily routine as always. However, Olivia's world had completely changed. This is the final piece of evidence. The digital investigator opened a new file. The plan for using the insurance money, found on Michael Green's company computer. It detailed the cruel plan in cold numbers. Olivia's death. Collecting the insurance money. And a new life with Amy. Everything had been perfectly calculated. However, the plan had fatal miscalculations. Amy's unexpected pregnancy, Dr. Chen's sharp observational skills, and above all, Olivia's strength. Late at night in Manhattan. The lights of Le Bernardine quietly dimmed. A story of love and betrayal would be forever etched there. In Manhattan's financial district, an unusual tension ran through Wall Street during the morning rush hour. Several police cars were parked in front of a high-rise building. Michael Green's arrest transformed the morning scene of the glamorous financial district. Michael Green, you are under arrest for attempted murder and attempted insurance fraud. Detective Murphy's voice echoed through the silent office lobby. Michael tried to maintain his perfect expression until the end. However, when the handcuffs were placed on him, that mask completely crumbled. This is a misunderstanding. I haven't. As he tried to make excuses in a trembling voice, reporters had already gathered. Camera flashes mercilessly captured Michael's distorted expression. At that time, another arrest was taking place at Le Bernardine's staff entrance. Amy Roberts was arrested just as she was arriving for work. While being mindful of her pregnant condition, the police securely handcuffed her. Amy Roberts, you are under arrest for aiding and abetting attempted murder. Detective Rodriguez read the warrant. Amy had already resigned herself. Crying, she quietly entered the police vehicle. At Mount Sinai Hospital, Olivia was preparing for discharge. Dr. Chen had just completed her final examination. You've recovered physically, but you need emotional care. The doctor quietly stated. I've made an appointment with the psychiatric department. 3 months later at the New York District Court. The courtroom was packed with spectators. Michael Green's trial was about to begin. Defendant Michael Green. The judge's voice resonated. How do you plead to the charges of attempted murder, attempted insurance fraud, and related charges? Michael maintained his innocence until the end. However, the prosecution's evidence was perfect. Le Bernardine surveillance camera footage. Amy's detailed testimony. Financial transaction records. And above all, Olivia's moving testimony touched the jurors' hearts. That day, I lost 2 things. Olivia spoke quietly on the witness stand. The baby in my womb and my trust in my husband. Amy agreed to a plea deal. Her testimony revealed the full extent of the incident. Considering her pregnancy, the prosecution offered a reduced sentence. Still, the crime of aiding attempted murder was severe. The defendant Amy Roberts is sentenced to 5 years in prison. The courtroom fell silent at the judge's sentence. Amy covered her face with both hands and disappeared into the prison transport vehicle, sobbing. The final verdict was delivered 6 months after the incident. The defendant Michael Green is sentenced to 25 years in prison. A shock ran through the courtroom. This was exactly the sentence the prosecution had sought. In explaining the verdict, the judge severely criticized the high level of planning, the base motive of insurance money, and above all, the fact that an innocent life was lost. Furthermore, you are ordered to pay $5 million in compensation to the victim, Olivia Green. Michael attempted to appeal, but the evidence was unshakable. The higher court upheld the original verdict. The appeal was rejected, and the sentence was finalized. Amy gave birth in the prison infirmary. Her sister took custody of the baby boy. Michael refused to acknowledge paternity. A new trial over child support was about to begin. Bernardine experienced temporary turmoil but made a fresh start under new management. While customers had stayed away due to the incident, they used this opportunity to establish an even stricter safety management system. They maintained their 3 Michelin stars. At Mount Sinai Hospital, Dr. Chen published a paper. Medical analysis of an attempted murder case disguised as food allergy created significant waves in the medical community. And the Manhattan skyline continued to shine beautifully as ever. However, everyone now knew the depth of darkness hidden within those lights. 1 year after the incident, on Christmas, snow was quietly falling over Central Park. Olivia sat in front of the fireplace in her new home. She had just been appointed vice president at her tech company. Her life had taken an unexpected turn. Carrying the memory of her lost child in her heart, she established the Angels of Hope Foundation, beginning support for Mount Sinai Hospital's pediatric ward. Supporting couples struggling with fertility treatments also became her new mission. In an interview with the New York Times, Olivia spoke quietly. "You can't move forward if you only focus on what you've lost. What's important is the new bonds you can form going forward." 5 years had passed, and Olivia's family had found a new form. 2 adopted daughters, 4-year-old Sarah and 2-year-old Emma. On weekends, the 3 of them would visit the neighborhood park. The children's smiles gradually healed her heart. The people involved in the incident had each taken their own paths. Amy worked on rehabilitation programs while serving her sentence, and Michael continued serving his term despite repeated appeals. Bernardine regained its former prestige, and Olivia's colleagues warmly supported her fresh start. On the last Christmas morning, Olivia sat with her 2 daughters in front of a large Christmas tree. Outside the window, snow began to fall quietly, gently enveloping this new family's happy moment. Life sometimes presents cruel trials. However, there is always new light waiting beyond those trials. Olivia now understands this more deeply than anyone.